5 ordinary Australian 50-cent coins, and one of them is worth $60,000. Right now, somewhere in Australia, someone has it sitting in a change jar, in a drawer, in an old wallet they have not opened in 20 years. They have no idea. And by the end of this video, you will know exactly which one it is, how to find it, and what every single one of these coins is actually worth. Because what the Royal Australian Mint has been hiding in plain sight for decades is about to change the way you look at every 50-cent coin you ever touch. Again, let's get started with Number 1. The 1970 Australian 50-cent Captain Cook Bicentenary coin is not simply a piece of currency. It is a declaration of national identity struck in metal. And it changed Australian coinage forever. This was the very first commemorative coin of the entire decimal era. The coin that launched every commemorative Australian 50-cent piece that followed it. And when you hold one in your hand, you are holding the beginning of a tradition that has defined Australian numismatics for over half a century. Every Silver Jubilee coin, every Commonwealth Games coin, every bicentennial piece, none of them exist without this one. The Royal Australian Mint issued it in 1970 to celebrate the 200th anniversary of Captain James Cook's navigation of Australia's east coast. And the ambition behind both the coin's concept and its execution was extraordinary from the very start. The design work was entrusted to Stuart Devlin, the man who at that time had designed the reverse of every Australian decimal coin in existence. And he did not disappoint. The reverse carries a 3/4 facing portrait of Cook, his actual signature reproduced across the bust in a facsimile, and behind him a detailed map of Australia with the dotted trail of his voyage running up the eastern coastline. That facsimile signature was a world first. The first time any coin anywhere had carried a reproduced signature of the person depicted on it, making this coin a genuine global numismatic milestone, not just an Australian one. The obverse carries the young Arnold Machen portrait of Queen Elizabeth II with the legend Elizabeth II Australia 1970 around the rim. The coin itself is 12-sided, dodecagonal in shape, struck in cupro nickel at 31.51 millimeters across and weighing 15.55 grams, with a plain edge. Every dimension, every design decision, every technical specification was deliberate and precise. Now, the production tiers of this coin are where the value conversation genuinely begins, because they are more varied and more complex than almost any other decimal coin ever issued, and understanding them is the difference between knowing you have a 50-cent coin and knowing you may have something worth thousands of dollars. 16 million coins were released into general circulation. 556,000 coins were struck to specimen standard and sold in distinctive red presentation cases through banks and the Royal Australian Mint at an issue price of 60 cents each. 40,000 brilliant uncirculated coins were produced for the 1970 mint sets. 15,500 were struck to proof standard for inclusion in the 1970 proof year sets. And then there were the 70 VIP proof presentation sets, each containing 2 proof coins and a personalized engraved plaque bearing the name of the recipient. Assembled at the direct request of the Australian Prime Minister's Department and given as gifts from the Australian government to dignitaries, diplomats, and individuals who played important roles in the bicentenary celebrations. 70 sets made. 2 coins each. 140 proof coins in the most prestigious packaging the Royal Australian Mint had ever produced, given to some of the most important people in the world in 1970. And then essentially disappearing from public view for decades. The circulated coin is worth face value. The specimen coin in its original intact red ram case is currently trading between $1,000 and $2,500 Australian dollars for top condition examples. The proof coin extracted from the 1970 proof set in high certified grade commands between $3,000 and $8,000 Australian dollars at specialist auction. The VIP presentation set is an entirely different matter. When the first known example surfaced at Noble Numismatics in March 2007, it sold for $1,000 Australian dollars plus commission, remarkable at the time, but that was 2007 pricing in a market that has transformed significantly in the years since. Today, with premium Australian decimal numismatics seeing consistent upward price pressure driven by both domestic collector appetite and growing international demand from Asian buyers specifically targeting Commonwealth commemoratives, a complete and intact VIP presentation set with the named engraved plaque and both proof coins in the original presentation box would be conservatively estimated at 12,000 to 25,000 Australian dollars at private treaty sale. With the right provenance documentation and a competitive specialist auction room, a named recipient set with strong historical connection, particularly one given to a head of state, a member of the royal family, or a figure of documented historical significance, could realistically achieve 40,000 to 60,000 Australian dollars or beyond. Only 2 complete sets have ever surfaced publicly. Every one of the remaining 68 is either sitting in a private collection, in an estate, or waiting to be discovered. There is also a critical date variety on the standard copper-nickel issue that every serious collector of this coin must know about. 2 different orientations of the number 7 appear on the date on this coin, what collectors refer to as the normal 7 and the rotated 7. Both are genuine Royal Australian Mint strikes, both are confirmed varieties, and both are actively sought by collectors who want a matched pair in comparable high grade. A 2-coin matched set with both date varieties, each in high certified grade, commands a meaningful premium over a single example, currently sitting in the 3,500 to 6,000 Australian dollar range at specialist auction for well-matched certified pairs. The 1989 masterpieces in silver restrike adds a further layer to the collecting story. That year, the RAM reissued the Cook Bicentenary reverse design in sterling silver with the newer Raphael Makhlouf portrait on the obverse as part of a 5-coin 50-cent collection. This silver version has its own collector value separate from the original, and complete certified masterpieces in silver sets are trading between 1,200 and 3,500 Australian dollars depending on condition and certification. The individual silver Cook coin within the set carries significant standalone interest for collectors who focus specifically on the Cook Bicentenary design across all its iterations. Handle this coin with extraordinary care. Never clean it under any circumstances. A cleaned coin loses numismatic value immediately and permanently, and the difference between a naturally toned high-grade specimen and a cleaned one at auction is frequently 50% or more of the final hammer price. If you have a specimen in the original red case, a proof from a 1970s set, or anything you believe might be from a VIP presentation, get it to a professional numismatist immediately for assessment, and seriously consider PCG's or NGC certification before any auction or private sale. The certification cost is trivial against the potential return. This coin started a legacy in 1970, and its value has been accumulating ever since. Stay with me, because the very next coin we are looking at was struck by an Australian mint for a foreign nation. And that fact alone opens up a world of collecting value and a story that most Australian coin holders simply have never heard. Number 2. The 1976 Australian Fiji 50-cent coin is one of those pieces that stops experienced collectors in their tracks the moment they understand what they are actually holding. At first look, it appears to be a foreign coin. It says Fiji on it. It carries imagery specific to Fijian culture, and it's circulated in the Pacific Island nation rather than in Australia. But it was made in Australia, by Australian hands, with Australian minting precision, under an arrangement between the 2 nations that makes this coin simultaneously part of 2 numismatic histories. That dual identity is not just an interesting footnote, it is the core of what makes this coin collectible, valuable, and genuinely underappreciated in the mainstream Australian market right now. The reverse of the coin carries the image of a kamikau, a traditional Fijian sailing canoe with the denomination printed below. The kamikau is a vessel of deep cultural significance for the Fijian people, representing the seafaring traditions that defined Fijian life for centuries before European contact, and placing it on the national coinage was a statement of cultural pride and identity. The obverse carries the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, the familiar Commonwealth effigy that connects this coin to Australia, to Britain, and to the entire web of Commonwealth nations that shared a monarch and, in many cases, shared a mint. The result is a coin of 2 worlds. The British Commonwealth on the front, Indigenous Pacific culture on the back, struck with the quality and precision that the Royal Australian Mint was producing at its peak in the mid-1970s. The value discussion on this coin moves through several distinct tiers, and understanding each one is essential for knowing what you actually have. A circulated example in average grade trades modestly, a few dollars at most in a standard dealer environment. But the Australian coin market has never been about average grades, and the 1976 Fiji 50 cent is no exception. The premium tier begins with uncirculated examples, and it escalates sharply with certified grade and error status. A high-grade uncirculated 1976 Fiji 50 cent coin, independently certified by PCGs or NGC in MS63 to MS65 condition, is trading in the 800 to 2,500 Australian dollar range at specialist and world coin auction. The reasoning is straightforward. Collector demand for certified Pacific Island Commonwealth coinage has been building consistently for several years, driven by both domestic Australian collectors who recognize the Australian Mint connection and international buyers who specifically target high-grade Commonwealth Pacific issues. These buyers are real, they are active, and they are paying competitive prices. For a genuinely exceptional example graded MS66 or higher, a grade that is legitimately rare for any coin of this era given standard handling and storage conditions, private treaty sales have moved beyond those figures, with specialist dealers noting that top-grade examples attract strong competition when they reach the right audience. Then there are the errors, and this is where the 1976 Fiji 50 cent becomes genuinely extraordinary. A clamshell split planche error is documented on the 1976 50 cent series, a dramatic manufacturing fault where the planche itself splits around approximately 3/4 of the rim, producing the distinctive clamshell shape that gives this error type its name. This type of error is uncommon on 50 cent coins of any year, and on the 1976 series, its appearance is rare enough that documented examples attract immediate specialist attention. A properly certified clamshell planchet split on a 1976 50 cent coin is conservatively valued at 4,000 to 9,000 Australian dollars in the current market. A particularly dramatic example with significant visual impact and full PCGs or NGC certification could achieve 12,000 Australian dollars or beyond at a specialist auction with the right bidding room. Beyond the clamshell, the error universe for the 1976 series includes off-center strikes, die cracks, double strikes, and rotated die errors, all of which are known to exist and all of which command premiums that can reach 100 to 500% above the standard coin value, depending on the severity and visual drama of the error. Error coin collecting is one of the fastest-growing segments of the Australian numismatic market, and the 1976 50 cent series sits squarely in the crosshairs of that trend. There is another dimension to the rarity of high-grade 1976 Fiji 50 cent coins that most people overlook entirely. Coins that circulated in Fiji were subject to entirely different storage conditions, humidity levels, handling patterns, and economic environments than coins that remained in Australia. The coins that eventually made their way back to Australian collectors in genuinely high grade are survivors in a very real sense. They have traveled between nations, passed through decades of Pacific Island circulation, and arrived in Australia with their quality intact. That journey creates what numismatists call condition rarity, which is distinct from mintage rarity and just as commercially significant. A PCGs or NGC grader assessing the population of high-grade 1976 Fiji 50 cent coins will confirm that MS65 and above examples are genuinely uncommon in the registered population. And low population combined with growing demand is the most reliable formula for price appreciation in the coin market. The proof versions of the 1976 Fiji 50 cent issued within official presentation sets are premium pieces in their own right. Small numbers of proof strikes exist for the Fiji 50 cent series, and a certified proof example in its original case represents a significant numismatic acquisition in the 1,500 to 4,000 Australian dollar range, with the rarity of proof examples in top condition pushing prices higher as the certified population remains thin. This coin is dramatically undervalued in the general market and quietly appreciated by those who understand what they are looking at. Get it certified. Research the error possibilities carefully. Understand that what looks at a glance like a foreign coin is actually a piece of Royal Australian Mint excellence with a compelling and growing collector base on both sides of the Pacific. The coin coming next is one that the vast majority of Australians have held, spent, and walked away from without ever knowing that hiding within its production run is one of the rarest and most financially significant mint errors in the entire history of Australian decimal coinage. Number 3. The 1977 Australian 50-cent Silver Jubilee coin is a coin of two completely opposite realities, and which reality you are in depends entirely on which version of this coin you are holding right now. Those two realities are separated by what looks like an almost invisible difference, but that difference in dollar value is the difference between a coin worth a few dollars and a coin that could be worth between 20,000 and 60,000 Australian dollars or more at the right specialist. Auction. Understanding this coin fully and understanding what to look for could be one of the most financially significant things you learn about Australian numismatics. In 1977, Australia was part of a global celebration. It was the 25th anniversary of Queen Elizabeth II's accession to the throne, the Silver Jubilee, and commemorations were held throughout the United Kingdom and across every nation of the British Commonwealth. The Royal Australian Mint marked the occasion by producing a special circulating 50-cent coin. Stuart Devlin designed the reverse, and he created something genuinely beautiful. 25 crowns arranged in a ring around a central device, with the legend Silver Jubilee 50 cents around the rim. 25 crowns for 25 years of reign. The symbolism was perfect, the execution was elegant, and the Australian public responded with enormous enthusiasm, hoarding the coins in vast numbers. Over 25 million were struck for circulation. A further 128,000 were produced in brilliant, uncirculated condition for mint sets, and 55,000 were struck to proof standard for inclusion in the 1977 proof year sets. The standard version of this coin, the Silver Jubilee obverse paired with the Silver Jubilee reverse, is, in circulated condition, worth 50 cents. In uncirculated condition, a few dollars. In pristine certified proof condition, between 500 and 2,500 Australian dollars for PCGs or NGC graded examples in the top grades of PR68 to PR70 Deep Cameo. The 1989 sterling silver masterpieces in silver restrike of the Silver Jubilee design adds further dimension to the collecting story. And complete certified 5-coin masterpieces in silver sets trade between 1,200 and 3,500 Australian dollars depending on condition. These are solid, legitimate values for the standard issue. But now we need to talk about what makes the 1977 50 cent the most financially explosive year in the entire dodecagonal 50 cent series. Because the mule variety changes everything. In 1977, only the Silver Jubilee design was supposed to be produced. The Royal Australian Mint's entire production run for 1977 dated 50-cent coins was meant to carry the Silver Jubilee reverse exclusively. No coat of arms reverse coins were supposed to be struck with a 1977 date, but a very small number of coins escaped the mint bearing the standard coat of arms reverse, the kangaroo and emu design used in years before and after 1977. Paired with the 1977 Silver Jubilee obverse. A coin with a design pairing that was never authorized, never intended, and should never exist. In numismatics, this type of unintended design combination is called a mule, named after the hybrid animal born from a horse and a donkey. Only 7 examples are currently documented. 7 coins in the entire world. The total known population of this error is smaller than the number of people who can fit in a standard elevator. These 7 coins were either produced accidentally during a die changeover at the mint, or, and this theory has genuine support, were deliberately struck by mint workers who understood exactly what they were doing and why it would matter to collectors. A separate verified mule also exists from 1977, in which 2 obverse dies were paired together, strengthening the argument that deliberate production of rare varieties was occurring within the mint at this time. What do the 7 known 1977 coat of arms mule 50-cent coins look like? They look, at first glance, completely normal. The obverse is the standard young Queen Elizabeth II portrait with the 1977 date. It is only when you turn the coin over that the extraordinary truth reveals itself. The back carries the coat of arms with the kangaroo and emu, not the 25 crowns of the Silver Jubilee. If you have a 1977 dated 50-cent coin and the reverse shows a kangaroo and emu rather than a ring of crowns, you may be holding one of 7 known examples of the rarest circulating decimal coin in Australian history. Do not clean it. Do not show it around carelessly. Take it immediately to one of Australia's reputable specialist numismatists, then to PCGs or NGC for authentication and grading. None of the known mules have appeared publicly on the market in some time, and the last known auction appearances showed values in the range of $8,000 to $20,000 Australian dollars for lower mint state grades. A PCGs or NGC certified example in MS63 or above, a grade that has never appeared in the certified population to the knowledge of the specialist community, would be a transformative event in Australian numismatics. Conservative private treaty estimates for a high-grade certified mule sit between $25,000 and $60,000 Australian dollars. At a competitive specialist auction with international bidders present, a coin in exceptional condition with full documentation and clear provenance could push beyond $80,000 Australian dollars. The market for rare decimal Australian coins has deepened considerably in recent years, with buyers from Asia, the United Kingdom, the United States, and Europe all actively pursuing top-tier Australian Commonwealth rarities. For those who check their 1977 50-cent coins right now and find the standard Silver Jubilee reverse, the ring of 25 crowns, that coin has solid value in high certified grades, and the silver issues carry genuine investment merit. But the message about the mule is simple and urgent. If you are Australian, if you grew up in the 1970s and 1980s, if you have old change jars or inherited coin collections that have never been fully examined, look at every single 1977 dated 50-cent coin you own. The one with the kangaroo on the back is not ordinary at all. The next coin carries a story of national celebration and childhood memory that every Australian from a certain generation will feel instantly. And it has its own powerful value story that most collectors are still sleeping on. Number 4. Brisbane, 1982. Australia was alive with it. The She Commonwealth Games were the largest and most prestigious sporting event Australia had ever hosted. The nation was united behind its athletes, and the atmosphere in Brisbane that August was one of pure national pride and color. Every Australian with a memory of that summer remembers it. The Royal Australian Mint struck a 50-cent coin to commemorate the occasion, and Stuart Devlin, the man whose name is synonymous with the artistry of Australian decimal coin design, delivered one of his most detailed and ambitious reverse designs of the entire decimal era. The reverse of the 1982 Commonwealth Games 50 cent is extraordinary in its density of information. The logo of the She Brisbane Commonwealth Games sits over a map of Australia, and surrounding it are illustrated icons representing 12 different sports conducted during the Games. 12 sports, each rendered in miniature, each carefully placed around the central device. An 8-pointed star marks Brisbane's position on the map. The legend around the rim reads CI Commonwealth Games Brisbane 50 cents. Devlin packed an entire sporting celebration onto a 12-sided cupro nickel coin measuring 31.51 millimeters, and the result is visually rich in a way that rewards close examination. This is not a simple commemorative device, it is a document of a national moment, and it is one of the finest examples of what Australian decimal coin design was capable of at its peak. Production numbers were substantial. Over 23 million coins were struck for circulation. A further 195,000 were produced in brilliant uncirculated condition for mint sets, and 100,000 were struck to proof standard for the 1982 proof year sets. Like many of the great Australian commemorative 50-cent coins, the public hoarded this one enthusiastically in 1982, expecting it to become enormously valuable, which means that circulated and even uncirculated examples are genuinely common in the general market. That commonness at the lower grades is real. But the exceptional examples, the highest certified grades, the silver issues, the errors, are another matter entirely. And that is where the serious financial conversation lives. A raw, uncirculated 1982 Commonwealth Games 50 cent is worth a few dollars in the general collector market. A certified PCGs or NGC MS65 example is worth between $500 and $1,500 Australian dollars, depending on population data and auction competition. A certified MS67 or above, a genuinely rare grade for any copper-nickel circulating coin of this era, would be a specialist event, with values in the 2,500 to 6,000 Australian dollar range at competitive auction. For proof coins, a certified PR68 Deep Cameo example from the 1982 proof set represents premium numismatic value in the 1,500 to 4,000 Australian dollar range. And a PR70 Deep Cameo, the absolute pinnacle of proof coin quality, is so rare for decimal Australian issues that any documented example would attract extraordinary attention from serious collectors. The 1989 Masterpieces in Silver restrike of the Commonwealth Games design is a critical part of the collecting story for this coin. As part of the 5-coin sterling silver 50-cent collection, the Commonwealth Games reverse was reissued in fine silver proof with the newer Raphael Makhlouf portrait of the Queen. A complete certified 5-coin Masterpieces in Silver set in pristine condition with original presentation materials is currently valued at 2,500 to 6,000 Australian dollars, with the finest certified auction examples approaching 8,500 Australian dollars. The individual Commonwealth Games silver coin within the set has standalone collector value in the 800 to 2,000 Australian dollar range for certified proof examples. Error varieties on the 1982 Commonwealth Games 50 cent are less widely documented than those on the 1977 or 1976 issues. But they exist, and they matter. Die cracks, rotated die errors, and off-center strikes are all known to occur across the 1982 mintage. And given the enormous production run of over 23 million coins, the probability that dramatic errors are sitting unidentified in private collections is genuinely meaningful. A well-documented, visually dramatic error on a 1982 Commonwealth Games 50 cent with PCGs or NGC certification would enter the 4,000 to 15,000 Australian dollar range, depending on the nature and severity of the error and the condition of the host coin. What gives this coin a particular and growing investment argument beyond its numismatic specifications is its emotional weight in the Australian national memory. The 1982 Brisbane Commonwealth Games are not simply a historical event for Australians who were alive at the time, they are a defining national memory, a moment of collective pride that sits in the same emotional register as the 1956 Melbourne Olympics and the 2000 Sydney Olympics. As the generation who experienced those games in person reaches the stage of life where collecting and legacy become central priorities, demand for the finest examples of this coin is positioned to increase steadily and consistently. The smart collectors are grading and securing the best available examples right now, before that demand shift becomes visible in the general market. The proof coins and the silver issues are already moving. The top certified copper-nickel examples are following. Keep this coin in archival storage. Get the best examples you have certified. Understand the silver proof dimension of the collecting story. And pay attention to the error possibilities. Because in a mintage of 23 million coins across 50-plus years of private storage and collections across Australia, the undiscovered dramatic errors have not all surfaced yet. The final coin in this series is unlike anything else ever produced by the Royal Australian Mint, because the design on its reverse was drawn by a 12-year-old child. And that fact alone makes it one of the most narratively extraordinary and financially underappreciated coins in the entire decimal era. Number 5. In the entire history of the Royal Australian Mint, and in the entire history of Australian decimal coinage from 1966 to the present day, there has never been a coin like the 2004 student design 50 cent. Not before it, not since it, and in all likelihood, never again. A 12-year-old child drew the design on this coin. His hand-drawn artwork was sculpted by a professional mint designer, struck onto legal tender, and placed into circulation across an entire nation. The Australian public voted for it. The mint committed to it. And the result is a one-year-only commemorative coin that carries, within its design, a story of childhood creativity and national celebration that no other piece of Australian decimal coinage can claim. In 2003, the Royal Australian Mint invited primary school students across Australia to enter a design competition. The theme was Australia, and the brief was open. Students were asked simply to create a design that captured something meaningful about their country. Nearly 2,600 entries came in from schools all over Australia. A panel of judges reviewed them against criteria including artistic merit, commemorative appropriateness, and technical suitability for minting. 5 finalists were selected and published on the Royal Australian Mint's website, and then the public was asked to vote for their favorite. The winner was John Serrano, a Year 5 student at St. Peter's Primary School in East Keilor, Victoria. John was 12 years old. He won $10,000 for his school. And his design, a koala holding onto a gum tree, a lorikeet with wings outstretched, and a wombat, was taken by master mint sculptor Vladimir Gottwald and transformed into the 3-dimensional relief that was used to strike millions of coins entering Australian circulation in 2004. There is no precedent for this in Australian coinage history. Royal Australian Mint coins have been designed by professional artists, by commissioned sculptors, by celebrated designers like Stuart Devlin and Ian Rank Broadley. Never before and never since has a member of the general public, let alone a primary school child, had their hand-drawn artwork struck onto circulating Australian legal tender. That uniqueness is not merely sentimental. In numismatics, uniqueness of narrative drives collector demand, and collector demand drives price. The 2004 student design 50 cent is the only coin in the decimal series that carries this story. And that story becomes more compelling, not less, with each passing year. The coin itself is the standard dodecagonal 12-sided format, 31.51 millimeters in diameter, 15.55 grams in cupro nickel, with the Ian Rank Broadley 4th portrait of Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse, the portrait used from 1999 onwards, and John Serrano's sculpted design on the reverse. The detail in Gottwald's sculpting of the original hand-drawn artwork is remarkable. The koala clings to the branch with visible texture in the fur. The lorikeet's wings are spread in full flight, individual feathers articulated within the coin's relief. The wombat sits solid and grounded at the base of the composition. It is, by any honest assessment, a charming and well-executed design that translates John's original drawing with fidelity and warmth. Now let us look at the value story across each production tier, because the gap between the common and the exceptional on this coin is as wide as on any Australian commemorative. A circulated 2004 student design 50 cent in average condition trades at a few dollars. Common enough to find, unusual enough to notice. An uncirculated example in the official RAM coin card presentation is currently trading between 50 and 250 Australian dollars, depending on the condition of both the coin and the card. A certified PCGs or NGC MS65 example of the copper-nickel issue is in the 500 to 1500 Australian dollar range, and for the genuinely rare MS67 or above, exceedingly uncommon for copper-nickel coins of this era, values move into the 2,000 to 4,000 Australian dollar range at specialist auction. Then there is the silver proof, and this is where the serious investment case is made. A fine silver-proof version of the 2004 student design coin was produced and released in a mustard yellow hinged lid presentation case protected by a full-color cardboard outer box, accompanied by a numbered limited edition certificate. The mintage was 8,203. That number is critical. 8,203 total silver proofs ever made. For comparison, the 1970 Captain Cook issue alone had over 500,000 specimen coins produced. The 2004 silver proof exists in a population that is genuinely small by any standard. And within that already small population, the number of coins that have survived in pristine condition with their original presentation case and numbered certificate intact is smaller still. Every year that passes, attrition reduces the available population through loss, damage, case deterioration, and absorption into permanent private collections from which they rarely emerge. A 2004 student-designed silver-proof 50 cent in its original presentation case with certificate is currently trading between 1,500 and 4,000 Australian dollars at private sale and specialist dealer level. A PCG's or NGC certified example in PR69 Deep Cameo would be a premium event, conservatively in the 4,000 to 7,000 Australian dollar range at specialist auction with competitive bidding. A PR70 Deep Cameo, the perfect grade, is so rare for decimal Australian proof issues that any documented example would generate extraordinary collector competition and could realistically achieve 10,000 Australian dollars or beyond with the right audience. Error varieties add a further premium tier. A die deterioration error is documented on the 2004 student-designed 50 cent, specifically identified through visible deterioration on the herb initials of the Ian Rank broadly obverse portrait. This catalogued variety is certifiable by PCGs and NGC as a distinct die state, and a certified example in uncirculated condition trades in the 2,000 to 5,000 Australian dollar range to knowledgeable specialist buyers. More dramatic errors, off-center strikes, double strikes, planche errors would command significantly higher values if documented on this particular design given its unique status and low silver-proof mintage. The long-term investment argument for the 2004 student-designed 50 cent rests on factors that compound over time rather than diminish. The human story behind this coin, a child's artwork on legal tender, voted for by the Australian public, is the kind of narrative that media returns to on anniversaries. 10 years after the coin was issued, John Serrano was a young adult. 20 years after, he was a qualified structural engineer whose childhood gift for spatial design had carried him into a professional career. The coin's anniversary years continue to attract renewed attention, and each time the story is retold to a new audience, a new generation of collectors discovers it. The one-year-only status means there is no repeat issue to dilute demand. The silver-proof mintage of just over 8,000 means the pool of available certified top-grade examples is finite and only ever shrinks. Buy the best example you can find. Store it immaculately. If you have a silver-proof in its original yellow case, get it certified and keep it in archival conditions away from humidity and temperature fluctuation. If you have multiple circulated examples, examine them carefully for the die deterioration error variety. It exists in the circulated population, and it is worth finding. This coin was designed by a 12-year-old who drew a koala, a lorikeet, and a wombat. And that drawing has been legally circulating as Australian money for over 20 years. The market has not yet fully priced the rarity and uniqueness of what that means. The collectors who understand it now are the ones who will benefit most when the broader market catches up.